In the Faubourg Treme, an old New Orleans neighborhood at the edge of the French Quarter, poet Brenda Marie Osbey lives and weaves haunting spells of words.
The Faubourg is a city within the larger city, and the women walk in pairs and clusters, moving along the slave-bricked streets. Night in the city is a maddening, deafening opening of hot blossoms, azalea, jasmine, cereus, great roses brought by Europeans long ago.
Osbey is winner of the prestigious American Book Award for All Saints, the latest of 4 books of poems. She is a native daughter who lyrically intertwines her city's past and present.
I believe in the musicality of the human voice, which doesn't mean that it has to be a pretty voice. I'm not looking for prettiness, but I am looking for a certain kind of beauty, which is sometimes raw and rough and gritty and broken. I'm always listening. I have the feeling of always eavesdropping, of always trying to hear what I'm not supposed to be hearing.
Osbey's work is intensely personal and intensely about the city. Her sense of it is mystical, tropical, and hard for an outsider to grasp right away.
Probably a lot of the things that I like about New Orleans are things that other people might consider negatives. I kind of like the funk of it, the steaminess, the heat, the perennial summer, the fact that everything is sort of wild and blossoming and overgrown.
Neighbors and neighborhood are important to Osbey. Both are steeped in history and full of stories that fuel her writing.
This is a community where people know their history, know their genealogy, will talk to you about their families at length.
Osbey is willing to take the time to listen.
I've worked 7 years on a single poem. It's a lot of research, it's a lot of reading, it's a lot of talking, it's a lot of reading at things also. It's a lot of collecting. When it works well, it works really well. There is only good poetry and bad poetry. There is no so-so poetry.
A stroll with Osbey through her favorite haunts reveals other inspirations for her work.
The dead must be mourned and sung over, and prayers told them to carry to the other side. The dead must be chanted and marched to their tombs, and the tombs then tended and the dogs kept away.
Her sense of family extends to ancestors who are honored in many ways. A home altar includes favorite saints. Osbey believes they are the pathway to her ancestors.
That sense of family gives us our sense of who we are. And that is one of the things that I think is culturally unique about New Orleans, is that unlike modern Americans, we do not feel the urge to break away from our families. Growing up to us does not mean growing away.
It was her own family that put Osbey on the path to a writing career, growing up in the New Orleans 7th Ward.
Well, I'd always written. I mean, not that it was anything anybody would want to see. Unfortunately, I've destroyed all of those things. But I grew up in a family with people writing. My mother had written in her youth. My grandfather had written in his youth. So writing was something you did. It was just part of growing up. It was part of what you did. And I'd always kept journals. I'd always written poetry. I'd written little stories and things. But I began seriously writing that freshman year at Dillard when I was 16.
Osbey's determination, talent for crafting words, and love for New Orleans and its people would make her an award-winning poet.
And that is the thing that I think, or that I hope filters through all of my work, is a sense of New Orleans, a sense of the city. And not just as home, but a sense of the city as its own person, as its own being, as its own character.
Brenda Marie Osbey has New Orleans in her bones. She's a woman who means business, and her business is writing poetry that changes the way we see and feel this city.